AITA for not standing up for my pregnant fiance who ate my daughter's cupcake. I have been with my fiance, 33F, for 3 years. I have a 10-year-old daughter from my previous marriage. Her mother passed away when she was 2.5. My fiance is currently pregnant. Yesterday, my daughter asked me to buy a giant cupcake from a bakery near my work. She wanted to take it to school to surprise her friend for their birthday. I also bought an extra cupcake for my fiance. She devoured hers right away. My daughter was really excited and put a nice ribbon around the box before leaving it in the fridge to take to school in the morning. Apparently, my fiance craved it in the middle of the night and ate the other cupcake. This morning, my daughter woke up to a big disappointing surprise. She started crying and screaming. I asked my fiance why she did that, and she said her craving was so bad she couldn't sleep. Then she yelled, "It's called being pregnant, jerks." My daughter screamed that she hates her and the baby already. I told her, "I'll buy another one today and maybe drop it off so you can give it to your friend after school." She said, "Don't bother." Later, my fiance texted me saying she's upset that I didn't stand up for her when my daughter was mean, and that my daughter and I owe her an apology. I'm sitting in my car wondering what the hell to do. Was I an asshole for not standing up for her? I feel lost. AIA for not letting my ex's husband be added to the school emergency contact list or to give him permission to take my kids to the doctor. I, 29, have 2 kids, 8 and 6, with my ex, 29F. We share physical and legal custody of them, and last year she got married to her husband, Josh, 34M. From the beginning of their serious relationship about 3 years ago, Josh has been a real ass to me, and my ex has let it happen and has joined in as well. The very first incident happened when my oldest had a school play, and I was already there when they arrived. Josh asked me why I'd shown up when I knew it was my ex's custody time, and I knew my kid would have 2 parents there already, which meant he was counting himself as a parent, and he was only dating my ex at the time. I told him, X and I both show up regardless of who has their time that week. And the judge and mediator encouraged us to do this. Josh said I was unnecessary. Another time, I went to the exchange to pick up my kids, and Josh was holding my youngest and tried to tell me my kid wanted to stay with him, even as my kid was reaching for me. My ex made him hand our child over because I told her I would be documenting incidents going forward since it looked we were going to have big problems. Josh accused me of being jealous when all I wanted was to take my kids with me, like I was legally entitled to. I also documented this and other incidents moving forward. Then when my youngest had a birthday party thrown by my ex's parents and they invited me, Josh told me I must be desperate to show up where I'm not really wanted. I told him if nobody wanted me here, why was I invited? And he started to say something about besides the kids, but then I guess he didn't want to say they were nobody. He was glaring pretty hard when the kids were all about having me there and didn't want him stepping in and taking over. By the time they got married, I had over 30 incidents documented, and I had taken my ex back to court over the issues. I presented a case for what showed signs of potential alienation and also interference in the legal custody order. The judge warned my ex that Josh's behavior could cost her custody if she wasn't careful, so Josh was no longer present during exchanges. There were still texts from Josh that I had to document and save because he was still saying stuff he shouldn't be. Not in direct violation, but getting very close to it. I couldn't block him because communication needed to be open in case something happened and my ex couldn't get in touch with me. The good part is, I didn't need to answer unless it was an emergency, and I didn't reply to those texts. Then my ex took me to court and wanted Josh to be granted guardianship of our kids. She made the argument that he was equally as involved as us, but did not have the same legal rights. She said it would be simpler if he could take them to the doctor without us, sign them up for stuff without needing our permission. She said as a step-parent, he was filling the role of a parent, but did not have all the abilities we did. She also mentioned the ability for him to make decisions in case of an accident. The judge refused to grant the guardianship request. She told my ex that given our past and given our kids had 2 active parents, it was not necessary to give him all that legal access. She also made it so I was not obligated to give permissions like that. She said the same as if I were to marry, she would not need to give my wife these permissions. My ex asked if that included the emergency contact list at school, and the judge said yes, that included the emergency contact at school. That takes us to now. My ex wanted me to consent to the full decision-making and permissions anyway. Josh was never added to the emergency contact list. School requires the consent of both parents. So our kids have my ex, then me, then my mom and dad, and then her mom and dad as their emergency contacts. I also did not give permission for Josh to take the kids to the doctor alone. My ex and Josh weren't happy when I refused to allow it. I told my ex I was not going to open the door for Josh to claim I gave him those rights because I didn't care about being a dad or because I wanted to shirk my responsibility as a dad. And I can see him using those permissions to engage in more alienation or to have a way of using it to make me look bad. I could also see it becoming an issue if he uses it to try and push me out. I would rather prevent it before it can start happening. My ex has argued that I'm not putting the kids first and I'm letting adult issues come between them and Josh. She said they deserve to have the love of both dads in their lives and that allowing Josh to care for them as we do when he's going to be around for the rest is the only right thing, she said. Otherwise, the kids will grow up seeing him as just her husband and not as their parent. And she mentioned how that's already present, but she said they have two men filling the role and only one who gets the love and affection from them for it. I don't think it would be the right thing under these circumstances. Legally, I'm covered, but morally, am I wrong here? Am I letting my issues with Josh and my ex make me not think of my kids first? That's why I'm asking, AITA?
AITA, after telling my aunt they can't respect my decisions, then my kid can't come over anymore, I, 33F, have an aunt 53F who sometimes picks up daughter 6F for overnights at her place. My daughter recently returned from one of those trips. During so, I got a phone call about my daughter's toes being red and maybe the shoes being too small. My aunt was wanting to throw them out, but I was going to pass them on to my younger niece, 2F, as my kid hasn't worn those shoes much. My aunt's boyfriend said he was worried I would put them back in her, which I said I wouldn't if they were small, but wanted them back to pass down to my niece. Turns out she decided to go to my mom, 53F, for permission to pitch the shoes. My mom gave the blessing since she didn't know why I wanted them back. When my daughter was dropped off, my aunt dropped he and her stuff off quickly, then bolted, which was weird for her. As I was emptying my daughter's luggage, I noticed said shoes were not in there. Daughter sad that they told her they were keeping the shoes for safekeeping, but I found out the truth shortly after. I tried calling my aunt, but she is not answering. It's not just about the shoes, but this has happened multiple times with other things because my mom said it was okay and her being my mom negates my decisions for my daughter. AITA for saying if my decision can't be respected and if my daughter can't return with everything she brought them, she can't come over anymore?
AIO about a comment my father-in-law made about my daughter. Yesterday, my in-laws were at my house and my 7-year-old girl was eating vanilla ice cream. It was melting a lot. She picked the spoon up and dripped it onto her tongue. My father-in-law said, "Wow, you're going to make your future boyfriend real happy." She's 7. I was actually in another room during all this. My wife and mother-in-law both told him it was inappropriate. He made the joke a couple more times even still. I then said it was inappropriate and left the room. He even asked my wife if I was mad. Didn't ask me. This morning, my wife is getting texts from both her parents. Her mother is pissed at him. He is saying what he meant was that her future boyfriend will be not happy about her table manners. Table manners. That has never been a discussion from him, and specifically about a future boyfriend. I asked my wife if there was anything further on this from her parents today. She said she texted she's good and I'm good. I said I'm not good. She then told me that it doesn't make sense to her he would make a perverted comment, so she chooses to believe it's about table manners. I reminded her of him repeating it even after I said it was inappropriate. She put her head in her hands and walked off. Seems to be ignoring me. I'm the bad guy here. AIO. Taking the high road and letting toxic parents orchestrate their own downfall. Okay, so a group of 4 or 5 mothers have actively tried to exclude my 8-year-old daughter. Their children are her best friends. The children love my daughter, and when she comes to school, they all run towards her to hug her and say hello. Basically, she's the popular girl in class, and she dislikes all the attention. but it gives her the power to stop bullying. And she does. She has refused to play with anyone who bullies and made an effort to play with the kids being bullied. So the bullying in her class is more or less stopped amongst the girls. However, some of the mothers have taken a dislike to her, or perhaps me, so they have refused to invite her and one other girl from their group, whose mother I'm friends with, to events like birthdays, despite their own kids literally begging for them to invite my daughter. She has also been invited once, and the child's mother told the child to disinvite her. There's always an excuse for them to say no to play dates. Despite this, the kids are still friends. I have chosen to take the high road. So I always tell the girls when they ask that they are always welcome at my place. Sometimes they have asked me to call their parents as they know they don't have plans, and I have done so and told them that unfortunately their parents said no. When they've asked why, I tell them to ask their parents. A couple of times these parents have actively chosen for their kid to be the only one left at after-school care rather than coming home with us. My daughter's birthday is coming up. I asked her how she wanted to celebrate and with whom. She chose her friends. I texted and asked for a play date, not mentioning that it was her birthday or that I was taking them to the most popular indoor playground that's quite expensive. All had excuses apart from my friend's daughter. After they declined, I answered, "Oh, what a shame. We were going to go to this playground. Your daughter really seemed to want to go and couldn't remember any plans. She must have forgotten." One backtracked. I know for a fact that the others have had huge tantrums at home. I'm guessing this, along with everything else, is making their kids lose all respect for their parents. I hear from my daughter that her friends are growing more and more resentful of their mothers. I mean, this is the sort of thing they will never forget or forgive. I have, of course, told the children what a shame it is, and I would have loved for them to come. In 2-3 years, their mothers will no longer hold any power over who they play with or where. I'm guessing I'm going to be seeing their kids a lot more than they will, and I will go out of my way to display good behavior, like I continue to encourage in my daughter. Edit. I have been told to add this. While I don't know if this is the reason, and I truly hope not, these mothers are all single mothers. As am I. I used to date a single father whose daughter goes to a different class for a couple of years. He cheated on me. I dumped him. I haven't told anyone, including my friends who have kids at the same school, because I didn't want any gossip affecting his daughter. However, I have seen these women fawning over him and throwing themselves at him before and after the breakup. They can have him for all I care. However, I highly doubt that they are his type or stand any chance. But if they are, the best of luck to them. They will need it.
My MIL's petty revenge against her cheating, lying son. So I posted about my cheating husband back in September and/or October. I was not in a good headspace then, but I have since healed and looking forward to my new life. Just to be clear, my in-laws have treated me better than my own parents ever did. They are the best people and I love them very much. On to the petty revenge. Around this time last year, my MIL and Phil came to me and my husband and told us their house was getting foreclosed on. The reasons for this are for a whole other post. We said, of course they can move in. We wouldn't have it any other way. My FL was diagnosed with a fatal disease called idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis around the same time last year. He was given 2 to 5 years. So again, there was no question as to them moving in except when. Over time, they finally decided to move in just before Thanksgiving in November. I found out my soon-to-be ex-husband was cheating on me in early September. I was then asked if his parents could still move in, and I said, of course. I'm not going to punish them because he can't keep it in his pants. They are completely on my side and will engage in polite conversation with him, but that's about it. Here I should add that yes, he still lives in the same house at the moment because his name is on the deed. For the moment, we have an agreement for our divorce settlement. He refuses to leave because he will be homeless because his mistress doesn't even want him. Also, our daughter is autistic and we have to transition her slowly, otherwise risk a major meltdown that she might not recover from. A less than idyllic situation, but I don't mind. One thing that really set my MIL off was one day, a Tuesday, my STBXH asked his mom for $20. He told her that he needed to put gas in the car. We only have one vehicle between him and me. From that Tuesday evening that he borrowed the money until that Thursday when he got paid, he didn't take the car, and the gas was almost on E the entire time. That Wednesday, he went out with his mistress all day. That Thursday evening, I mentioned the gas situation to my mill. That's when we figured out he lied to her about needing money for gas just so he could go out with his mistress. One evening, my mill and I were trying to figure out something for dinner. My stick box is a very picky eater, so I have learned over the past 15 years to only make what he will eat. So while we were thinking of a meal to make, I mentioned that he wouldn't eat it. My golden angel of a mill said, "I don't care, I'm mad at him so he can fend for himself." Ever since then, we try to come up with meals we know he won't eat just so he can fend for himself, knowing full well he'll just starve or go out and get fast food. It's our small, petty way of getting revenge on him. Honestly, now, I really don't care enough about him to care about petty revenge anymore, but I love it for my mill. Oh, and since September, my best revenge is that I've lost 60 pounds and am almost halfway to my goal weight. That is the best revenge. Have a wonderful day and stay petty, my fellow potatoes. Edited because autocorrect got me and I didn't realize it. AITAH for challenging my stepdad and winning. I live with my mom and stepdad, who got married 3 years ago. My mom is amazing, but my stepdad, Eric, is one of those people who always needs to be right. He'll argue over the dumbest things, like how to pronounce pickon or whether a hot dog is a sandwich. Last week, we had family over for dinner, and my mom made her famous lasagna. It's her thing, like people beg for it at Thanksgiving. Eric, as usual, was in one of his moods and started talking about how he was the real chef in the house. I was already rolling my eyes internally, but then he said, "Honestly, I should have made the lasagna tonight. I could have done it way better." I laughed, out loud, probably louder than I meant to. He shot me this look like I'd just insulted his entire ancestry. He got real serious and said, "You don't even know how to cook. You're a kid. You'd burn water if you tried." Now, this is where I might have messed up. Instead of letting it go, I said, "Oh yeah? If you're so confident, how about a lasagna off?" I thought it was a joke, but my mom, bless her soul, immediately jumped in and was like, "That's actually a great idea. Let's do it this weekend." So Saturday rolls around, and we each make our own lasagna. Mine, I crushed it. My mom even helped a little, but I mostly did it myself. Eric, on the other hand, got cocky and decided to improvise his recipe, adding weird stuff like BBQ sauce and mushrooms. Who even does that? When we did a blind taste test with the family, mine won unanimously. Eric was furious. He accused me of cheating, saying my mom must have helped way more than she admitted. He even said the family was biased against him. My mom told him to chill, but he stormed out of the room. Later, my stepbrother texted me saying I humiliated his dad and should have just let him win. He said I was being immature and that I should apologize. But like, why? It's not my fault he's a sore loser, right? So, AITAH. AIA for telling my best friend that she needs to go to therapy. My best friend, F22, and I have shared a close friendship for nearly 11 years. However, there was a significant 5-year period during which she completely ghosted everyone in her life, including me. This was largely due to her personal struggles stemming from a tumultuous family situation. Her home life has always been challenging, leaving her feeling isolated and cut off from her friends. After we reconnected, I noticed a troubling pattern in her relationships. She tends to jump from one boyfriend to another, often cycling through a new partner every month. This instability seems to stem from her intolerance for disagreement. She becomes upset when her boyfriends express differing opinions or try to guide her. Moreover, she has a tendency to twist the words of those around her, portraying herself as the victim in various situations. This behavior has not only impacted her romantic relationships, but has also affected her social interactions. Recently, her father advised her to concentrate on her studies, suggesting she take a break from dating. As a result, she currently does not have a boyfriend, and her social circle is extremely limited. She only considers me a friend, as she's had falling outs with others, including the caretaker and other boarders in her boarding house. Despite the geographical distance between us, living in cities that are quite far apart, we started communicating much more frequently after her father's advice. However, I've noticed some concerning changes in how she interacts with me. The dynamic of our friendship seems to be shifting. It feels like she is beginning to project her frustrations onto me, starting arguments over minor issues. One moment that stood out was when she expressed her desire for me to accompany her to Taiwan, the country where her father resides and where she has familial roots as someone who is half Taiwanese and half Filipino. I was genuinely enthusiastic about the possibility of this trip, so when I asked her, "You really want me to go with you?" then she replied, "No, you shouldn't ask that because I'm happy to travel with you." Both of us were filled with excitement about our plans for the upcoming week, but then everything took an unexpected turn. Out of the blue, she expressed her feelings by saying, "To be honest, I was a bit offended when you asked if I really wanted you to go with me. I believe in the saying, Pagasto maraming param, parayao maraming dailan, which translates to, if you want something, there are many ways to make it happen. If you don't, there are many excuses." Her unexpected response left me speechless, and I felt compelled to clarify that my question wasn't meant to imply doubt about her intentions. In the heat of the moment, I ended up apologizing because I genuinely felt that she had misunderstood my words. The conversation soon shifted to relationships, a topic we both enjoyed discussing. I mentioned a concerning video I had seen on YouTube about a guy who was coercing his girlfriends into having unprotected sex, all to spread his herpes without their knowledge. As I shared my thoughts, I emphasized the importance of using protection to ensure safety. But her reaction was immediate and intense. She seemed upset and shot back, "You think I'm just going to have sex with anyone, anytime I want? You really think I'm that kind of girl?" Taken aback by her response, I quickly assured her, "No, that's not what I meant. I never thought that about you." I explained my intent was solely to highlight the disturbing aspect of the video, not to cast any judgment on her character. Despite my efforts to clarify, she responded, "You're judging and insulting me. You shouldn't judge people when you don't know their circumstances." Confusion washed over me, and I realized that it was crucial to de-escalate the situation. With sincerity, I offered my apologies once more, saying, "I'm really sorry. That wasn't my intention at all. I've never thought of you in that way." I hoped my words would help mend the rift that had suddenly formed between us. Over the next few days, our conversations took an unexpected turn, drifting into a range of rather random topics. I found myself delving into the fascinating world of ancient civilizations, discussing the Sumerians with their complex writing system and groundbreaking agricultural techniques, and the Egyptians, renowned for their stunning pyramids and rich mythology. However, during this exchange, I noticed that she seemed to be preoccupied, directing her thoughts toward the concept of fate. It quickly became apparent that she wasn't fully engaging with my musings, so I decided to shift my focus and listen to her perspective instead. As she spoke, she shared her beliefs about fate, stating with conviction, "I truly believe in fate. If someone is murdered or becomes a victim of assault, I view it as their fate, something unavoidable." Her words struck me like a physical blow, as I was painfully aware of the fact that she knew about my own past trauma. When I was 17, I was assaulted by my older cousin's boyfriend, who was 27 at the time. Hearing her make such sweeping statements about victimhood felt deeply hurtful and frustrating. In a calm but firm tone, I replied, "You shouldn't express that viewpoint out loud. It can be incredibly offensive to both victims and their families." She responded with a defensive attitude, saying, "I know, that's why I only think it in my mind." This admission, rather than reassuring me, only fueled the tension between us. Almost immediately, she began to erupt in anger once more, bringing up all the miscommunications that had piled up between us. In her outburst, she accused me of constantly judging and insulting her, even though I honestly had no intention of doing so. Frustration welled up inside me as I tried to clarify my intentions, but it felt futile. No matter how I explained myself, she seemed to dissect and overanalyze every single word I said and every action I took. Realizing that my words just weren't getting through, I decided it was best to step away for a day and take a breather to gather my thoughts. The next day I messaged her, I understand that you tend to think deeply about things, and I can only imagine how overwhelming that can be at times. It might be beneficial to reach out to someone like a therapist who can help you process those thoughts. and bring some clarity and peace into your life. You truly deserve to feel understood and find a sense of ease. Her, wow, coming from you. Thanks, but no thanks, ha ha ha. Then she proceeded to clear her chat nickname me. Both of us must recognize that your triggers are your responsibility, just as everyone has their own challenges. As friends, I shouldn't feel like I have to constantly walk on eggshells for fear of saying or doing something that might upset you. This environment of overanalysis makes it difficult for me to be my authentic self around you. It's important to understand that not everything is a reflection of you or has a hidden agenda. By continuously overanalyzing every little interaction, you're creating unnecessary tension. If you're open-minded, as you say, then it's vital to let go of the need for others to tiptoe around your unresolved trauma. I believe we can have a more honest and supportive friendship if we both recognize these boundaries. Her, yes. Be yourself, and if you don't show who you really are, you will attract fake people. If you are true to yourself, then you attract real people too. You know what? The reason why I didn't tell you about it is because I chose to set aside my feelings, and I don't want to cause misunderstandings or fights. I'm also human, and I get hurt too. I tried to open up to you so you know what I feel, but the opposite happened. I was still in the wrong. Ha ha, ha ha, ha ha. But it's okay. I feel like I'm invalidated, and that's my reaction because of my unresolved trauma, so I need therapy? So that's the reason I keep my mouth. You didn't see the cause of why I reacted that way, but yeah, this is so unhealthy, and if fate wants us together until we get old, it will happen, and if not, then it is what it is. I don't like to yell at you, but I think this will be my last statement. Always be yourself, okay? Because I can't endure your authentic self, and I guess I failed as your BFF. Me. I want to emphasize the importance of communication, which you have acknowledged before, so I don't understand why you would set that aside to avoid misunderstandings or arguments. It doesn't add up. I want to clarify that I don't argue with you, however. It seems like you're framing this as an argument when it's not. I don't make a big deal out of small misunderstandings. I rarely do misunderstand you. On the other hand, you often misinterpret my words and actions by overanalyzing them, leading you to perceive things I never intended, like judging or insulting you. It's crucial to recognize that not everything is about you or carries a hidden meaning. By twisting my words, you position yourself as the victim, but that narrative doesn't hold up. There are no victims here. You are creating unnecessary problems that don't exist. I want to clarify that I didn't invalidate you. My suggestion to seek professional help comes from a place of understanding. I've been in your shoes, and therapy played a crucial role in my healing process. It's concerning that you can't acknowledge this need, as it reflects issues with your mental health. You're not being reasonable. You seem to be fabricating problems instead of recognizing that something isn't right. You often ask me to listen and understand your perspective, and I did just that, but have you taken the time to really hear what I'm saying? Instead, it feels like you're twisting my words to suit your narrative, portraying me as the villain in your story for accusations I haven't made. You claim I'm unaware of the reasons behind your reactions, but I've listened closely, and it's clear that you constantly talk about fate as if it's some predetermined path. This obsession with fate feels excessive, almost like a dogma. It's time to address these issues directly. Her, lol. I didn't make myself a victim, okay? I just don't like yelling at people, because for me, there is no point in doing this. I've accepted that I'm not really good for you. That you deserve someone better, who understands you better. I just want to end this up because I don't like to talk about it anymore. I'm exhausted from defending myself, and I don't care anymore. Me. You're upset with your ex for failing to take responsibility and apologize for his mistakes, yet here you are doing the same thing. You are dodging accountability, and your emotional manipulation and guilt tripping are unacceptable. I've repeatedly apologized for things I didn't even do, all because you tended to overanalyze my every word and action. I've taken responsibility for things that never happened, even though you've twisted my words without offering a single apology in return. It's not my fault that you feel everyone is against you or that your insecurities drive you to seek constant validation. What you did was wrong, and not everyone is required to agree with you. Despite our attempts at a normal conversation, you somehow turn it into an argument when I'm not even trying to fight with you. You say you're exhausted? Perhaps it's because you're wearing yourself out by creating conflicts that don't exist and accusing others of things they haven't done. If you're feeling defensive, consider this. There's nothing to defend because I'm not accusing you of anything. Unlike how you've treated me. Don't bring my exes here because they have nothing to do with this. But now I understand why your other friends betrayed and neglected you. Pity. I clearly understood now. Honestly, before I couldn't see why, but now it's clear to me why, and it's all because of your attitude. The reason why some other people keep away from you is because of your attitude. I'm done. Bye. For context, I opened up to her about the friendships I cultivated while immersed in the world of cosplay. I was part of a close-knit group of friends, all girls, who bonded over our shared passion and frequently spent time together outside of our costumes. Whenever we hung out, it became a bit of a spectacle. People often recognized me, shouting out my cosplayer name or asking to snap photos together. My reputation in the local cosplay community is quite notable, and my distinct fashion style, characteristically alternative, helps me stand out even more in a crowd. Despite the attention, I always made a conscious effort to prioritize my time with my friends. I politely declined the requests for photos whenever people approached us, as I didn't want to disrupt our moments of connection or make my friends feel sidelined. However, the persistent encouragement from my friends telling me it's okay to snap photos with them made me agree to take photos. Eventually, I noticed a shift. The invitations to hang out began to dwindle, and I often saw them together in Instagram stories without me. Fast forward to the following year, when one of my friends from that circle unexpectedly showed up at my house, a box of pastries in hand as a peace offering. She admitted that the reason for our sudden distancing was rooted in jealousy. The other girls felt overshadowed by my presence and popularity, which led to their reluctance to include me in their gatherings. While I understood their insecurities on some level, it still stung deeply. I had always been there for them, lending support and assistance with their cosplay projects. It was disheartening to realize that my contributions hadn't shielded me from being cast aside by those I considered friends. So then I replied to her, You often believe you're right, but that's not the case. Those people were never my friends to start with. My true friends, with their loyalty and support, always have my back. In contrast, you have only one friend, and that's me. However, your negative personality, mindset, and refusal to take accountability for your actions have cost you that friendship. Despite my detailed explanations of where you went wrong, you continue to refuse acknowledgement. Your unwillingness to confront this is holding you back from personal growth. Now you find yourself with no one by your side. And that's how it ended, because she blocked me after that. I tried to fix it, but I also didn't want to tolerate her behavior. It hurts that our long friendship ended this way.